Tip number 4, some factors to consider when you're buying a property subject to. So everybody asks me all the time, will this make a good subject to? And, I always like to give the lawyer answer. It depends. It really depends. We have to look at, these 7 or so factors and maybe a few others to decide whether or not the deal makes sense. Not every subject to makes sense. I've had people offer to give me the property and it was over leveraged and it was a lousy interest rate and it was not in good condition. And I declined. I don't take every subject to just because someone wants to give it to me. So here's the factors we want to look at. What's the desirability of the neighborhood? Yeah, it's great to get a property subject to, but if it's in a terrible neighborhood on a terrible block, I don't know if you'd want it. What's the condition of the property? Okay, you can take subject to a 2.5% loan. That's wonderful. No money out of pocket. That's wonderful. But the property needs 50 grand worth of work and there's no equity. Not good. What are the existing loan terms? Is it fixed? Is it variable? Is it 5.5% or 2.5%? So that weighs into the equation. How much money required out of pocket for you for either repairs and or money to the seller, or if the seller is behind in payments, so you have to make them up. So we have to look at sort of risk versus reward. How much money am I willing to put up to take a loan subject to? Considering all these factors. Is the seller still living there? And do they want to live there after the closing for a while and then move out? That always is a risk factor. What would it rent for, or what would it resell for? And is there any equity in the property or future potential appreciation? I've taken loans subject to where they were upside down, more owed than it was worth, but the interest rate was very low. And it was in an appreciating area. So at some point, things would level out, and they did. Especially when someone has like a loan mod where their interest rate is 2% for the next 3 years, and I know I could rent it for $500 a month positive cash flow. The equity is sort of meaningless there. You're making cash flow, and eventually, assuming that interest rate doesn't pop from 2 to 8, and assuming the property values will go up and you pay the mortgage down and you get equity. At some point, it might be worth doing. So, there's no really magic answer or formula in a spreadsheet I can give you. Just these items to consider as a whole, and each one against each other. Is this deal worthwhile? Does it make sense to buy it subject to? Because not every deal is doable just because it's a subject to.